Hi guys, welcome back to Pro Studio Live and welcome to the Pro Tools Authority class. Last week we covered creating, deleting, and using tracks, as well as all the different track options that you have. We also discussed your cursors and playback options, showed you how to save and recall sessions properly, and how to use your workspace browser to run a search and open sessions. We also discussed some more basics that you need to know before recording. So today we will pick up from there and discuss how to check to make sure your hardware and software is ready for recording, and then we will go into the basics of recording audio to your tracks. So let's talk about your hardware connections. When you record audio, you generally plug a microphone or instrument or sound source of some type into the interface for your Pro Tools system. Depending on what your sound source is, which input that you use on that interface will change. So for example, you'll plug a microphone into your microphone preamp inputs. So before you even start recording, it's good to research which input you should use for your specific sound source, and then make sure that it's plugged in correctly and securely. You should then confirm that signal is passing from your source into your system. You might also want to check or change the routing for which physical inputs and outputs on your interface are sent to which inputs and outputs in Pro Tools. To do this, you should check your configuration and possibly hardware setup of your Pro Tools system. It will depend on your setup and interface, but you'll either use the physical controls on your gear, a separate control panel, or the controls within the hardware setup dialog box to set which Pro Tools inputs and outputs are routed to which physical inputs and outputs on your gear. So you can access that hardware setup dialog box by going to the setup menu and selecting hardware. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly. So I'm going to find that setup and I'm going to select hardware. And you can see that I just have the Apogee one plugged in. So that's all you're going to see here in my peripherals section. But we will go into this window in more detail later. For now, let's move on to record enabling tracks. In order to record enable your tracks, you first have to set the input for the track. So what you want to do is find the input path selector on your track, either in the mix or the edit window. So I'm just going to close out of this window really quickly, and I'm in the mix window currently. So my input path selectors are these top selectors here. So any of these right here on these tracks, they're the input selectors. And then if I go to the edit window, they're the top ones right here. So this input path selector is more commonly displayed in the mix window, but it can be displayed in either the mix or the edit window by using the view options drop-down menu, which I showed you in some previous episodes, but I'll just show you it again. So right here in the edit window, it's this drop-down menu right here, and it's the IO options, or input and output options, if you remember. So I can click that and they disappear from my edit window. I can bring them back in. And I can also go to that mix window and do the same. I don't know if it's an option. It's not an option in the mix window, but it's automatic. It's always on the mix window. Okay. So this selector lets you route signal from your interface's input into the track. So once you locate it, just confirm that the input path selector matches the input on your audio interface that you've plugged your sound source into. If it isn't, click on that selector and find the correct input path, or paths if it's stereo, right, using the drop-down menu. So I'm just going to kind of show you on this track that I'm going to record. Right now I have it on the one path, which is a custom path that I made for this Apogee one. But if you click on it and you hit interface, you'll have a bunch of different options depending on your interface. Again, you just pick the one that you want. So once you have the inputs and outputs selected for your track, you can simply click the record enable button to ready that track for recording. So I'll just show you how to do that again. Let's see. So I'm just going to click the record enable button, which is right here. Excuse me. You can see when I coughed, the audio popped up because it's record enabled. And then if you're in the edit window, you can find the record enable button right here. And similarly, click on it. Now, excuse me, just having a little bit of water there. Okay. So if you'll notice that this button is both in the edit and in the mix window. And you'll notice that this button will begin to flash red and the track fader turns red to indicate that the track is enabled for recording. So I'll just show you again. If you look at the track fader, when I click on that, it turns red. Okay. So once it's in this mode, the red fader actually functions as a record monitor level control. So you can record enable multiple tracks by simply clicking more record enable buttons. You can also record enable all of the tracks of one type. So for example, all of the audio tracks at once by holding Option or Alt if you're in Windows, and then clicking on any track of that type's record enable button. Okay. So now you want to set your input level. A good input level is important for proper gain staging. The idea is to get a good clean signal that doesn't clip with a low noise floor. So back in the days of tape, you wanted to record at a high level, as high a level as possible. But nowadays, our digital systems have much lower noise floors. And when you push the level really high, instead of getting that tape saturation effect, you get a nasty distortion sound from clipping. So with Pro Tools, you don't need to record at your highest level possible, and you actually shouldn't. You want to leave a little room for processing that involves gain changes. So for example, EQ will involve gain changes, right? So you want to leave that space so that you could run this processing without clipping the audio. So when setting your levels, you want your audio to be hovering around -6 decibels or lower, which means you'll want the audio to hover within the light green range on its meter. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly. I'm going to pull my mic over here, and then I'm going to record enable it so that I can set my levels. So now that's in record enabled. And if I talk into it, you can see a little bit of noise happening, but I need to increase the gain on my mic preamp, right? So I'm just going to turn that up, and you'll see the levels rising, and they'll keep rising until you see that light green. So that's kind of where you want to be hovering around. Okay. So to set your levels, you'll want your musician to warm up or play for a bit while you tweak those levels. And then you'll look at that track meter that lights up in Pro Tools that we were just looking at, and you'll adjust the level knobs on your hardware. So for example, if you're using a mic, you will adjust the gain knob on your preamp like I just did. It's important to note that you never adjust the actual record levels within Pro Tools. You have to adjust the record levels by controlling the actual levels of the performance, changing the location of your microphone, or by using settings on a mixer or a preamp before it even goes into Pro Tools. So adjusting the volume fader on your track will adjust the playback levels, but that won't change the record levels. And it's important to make sure your record levels are good. Anyway, once your meters in Pro Tools are hovering in that light green range, you're good. So there are some cases where you would do a digital transfer into Pro Tools, in which case you wouldn't need to necessarily adjust those levels because those levels would be copied straight into Pro Tools. But it's important to note here that if you're setting your panning on a track, which is through the panning knobs on your tracks, right? So I can show you those really quickly again as well. So your panning knobs, I'm in the mix window here. So this is a panning knob for a mono track. So it can go left or right, right? And then these are what it looks like for a stereo track. So, this panning only affects the signal for playback and for monitoring, and it doesn't affect how the audio is recorded to your track. So now you should have your levels set, and your track record enabled, and you should be ready to record, right? So there are a few different modes in which you can record, but for now we're going to stay in the default record mode in Pro Tools, which is called non-destructive record. Okay, so you have a few options for how to start recording. One way to start recording is to open up the transport window if it's not already displayed by going to the window menu and selecting transport. So I'll just show you that again, right? So window, I'm going to find transport here. And there it is, my transport window. So then what you do is you might want to click on the drop-down menu and select expanded transport to open up some more options in this window. So I'll just show you that again. So it's open right now. See how it's checked? You can see that expanded transport is open. You can also toggle the expanded view on and off by clicking that green plus sign button that's in the top left corner of your window, where the full screen button is on your Finder or Explorer windows, right? So on a Windows system, I believe it's on the right side. But anyway, I'll show you that right here on a Mac. So it's this button. It toggles the expanded transport on and off. So anyway, then you just click the record button on the transport window to enter record ready mode for the whole session. And you'll see the button begin to flash red. So I'm just going to re-record enable my track and then hit that button, right? So I'm record enabling my track, and now you see my nice healthy level that I set earlier. And now I'm going to click this red button here, which puts the whole session in record enable mode. So then what you're going to do is, just like with old cassette players that could record, you hit the play button or the space bar to begin recording. So here's that play button. And I'm just going to switch into the edit window so you can see the audio being created here, hopefully. Recording. So my computer takes a second to start displaying it, but there we are. Check, check, check. Test, test, test. My audio is recording to my track. Okay, I'm just going to hit spacebar to stop this recording. And there's my new audio. Okay. So you can also start recording this way using the record and play buttons on your toolbar at the top of your edit window. And it works just the same as if you have your transport window open. So you can see it right here is the same record enable and play button that we have down here in the transport window. So you can just, you don't even need to open the transport window for that. You can hold record and then hit play to start the record. Another way to start recording is to record enable your tracks and then hold command or control in a Windows machine and hit the space bar. So I can show you that really quickly. So I'm just going to record. I'm going to drop my cursor here. Let's see. And then I'm going to record enable my track and see my healthy level, right? And then I'm going to hit command, hold command, and hit space bar. Start my record. It takes a second, but it will start right here. All right, so there's my audio, my nice healthy audio right there. So now I'm just going to hit spacebar to stop this record. And there it is. Okay, let me get out of this record enable. All right, so yeah, another way to start recording is to record enable your tracks and then hit F12. So I'm not going to show you guys that right now because it's just a button on my keyboard and you can't really see it, but you can hit F12 to start your recording as well. So you can also start recording by hitting the 3 button on your numeric keypad if you have an extended keyboard with that numeric keypad. And that's a very common one that's used in recording studios. Anyway, once you're done recording, you just stop recording by hitting the stop button in your transport window or in your transport section of your toolbar, or you can press the space bar like I did earlier. Okay, so now that you've recorded some audio to a track or tracks, Avid recommends some organizational techniques that should help you stay on track and organized during editing. So first of all, you should make sure you click on the record enable button on any tracks that are record enabled currently to take them out of the record enable mode. And that's very important. You don't want to forget that you left a track in record enable mode and accidentally record over something later, right? So once all your tracks are out of record ready mode, you might want to hit the play button in the transport window or hit spacebar to play back what you've tracked, and then tweak the playback level and panning to your liking, right? So I'm just going to make sure none of my tracks are record enabled still. I'm going to put this mic out of my way. And so then I could listen back, you know, by hitting space bar. And I could adjust the level here with my fader. So that's where you adjust the fader level. And then the panning is right here again, which we covered. So hopefully you tracked your audio without clipping. But if you did clip at some point, you might notice the red clip indicator light will light up. So you can clear those clip indicators by clicking on them or by holding Option and hitting the C button on your keyboard to clear all of them at once. So I'm going to click on this one so you can see that. So I'm just going to click that and now it's cleared. So if it clips again, I will know. And what I'll do is I'm going to boost the clip gain on a clip in my session so that I can see the clip indicator light up on my master track. And then you can see me clear it using that Option C. So let me just do that really quickly. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to boost this one because it looks like my louder one. I'm just going to play that for a second. I hope it doesn't blast you guys. No. So now what I have is I have these clip indicators on my master track because my audio clipped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Option and hit C to clear that clip, right? So I'm holding Option. I'm about to hit C. You'll see those red lights go away. So there you go. So that's a good way to clear all of your clip indicators at once. So next, it's important to organize your clips and audio files. So when you track some audio into Pro Tools, it not only creates the clip on the track to which you recorded, but it also adds that audio file to the clip list and to your audio files folder by default. So these audio files that are referenced within your session and exist in your audio files folder are also known as whole file clips. So when you edit your recording in your timeline, you might trim or cut or paste sections of your clips, which creates smaller pieces of your original audio file, which are known as subset clips. So the important thing, the information that's used to create these subset clips is generally stored within your Pro Tools session, since Pro Tools will still reference the original audio file in order to create these smaller subset clips, right? So this means that the subset clips aren't storing any of the audio themselves. They're actually just storing information that's used to reference the whole file clip, right? So they store this data in order to display or recreate the section of audio information that makes up that subsection of the whole file clip. So subset clips are considered to be something that's internal to Pro Tools because of this. Anyway, all clips in Pro Tools represent some piece of audio data, and you can move around or edit those within Pro Tools. So you can either create new clips or subset clips through editing or recording, or you'll notice that Pro Tools will generate them automatically when you perform some functions. So a clip can be any type of audio. So that can include music or sound effects, Foley, dialogue, or ADR, with ADR standing for automated dialogue replacement, right? So anyway, you can see all your clips, including whole file clips and subset clips, within the clip list in your edit window, which we've covered. Its location is right here towards the right. So you can tell which is which because Pro Tools will display the whole file clips in bold and all other clips won't be in bold, right? So you'll notice that with my stereo audio files as well, the word stereo appears in parentheses next to the clip's name. So let's see if I have any stereo files in this session. So I'm just going to drag out this clip list so that we can see. And there they are. It says stereo for these clips. Okay. So if you click on the triangle to the left of a stereo clip name, you'll notice that you can separately view the left and right channels of that clip. So I'm just going to open up one of these stereo clips for you. So I'm just going to click on this one, and now I can see the left and the right as two separate clips. Okay. So you can also see some of your clips on your track playlist, which is where we will interact with and edit these clips. And you guys remember the track playlist is this section right here where they're displayed as rectangles. So each rectangle of audio here is a distinct clip, right? Okay. So let's move on to naming your files and clips. When you record and edit your audio, Pro Tools will generally automatically create names for your audio files and clips. So sometimes these names won't make much sense to us with long lists of clips with numbers as the only distinguishing factor in their name. So, to make these clips more recognizable for us and lend some more meaning to the name of each clip, we might want to rename our clips and files. So to start with, Pro Tools creates names for any files created through recording to an audio track, which are, in other words, whole file clips, right? And the way Pro Tools generates these names is it takes the name of the track, followed by an underscore, followed by a number that denotes the take number for that recording, which is, in other words, how many times you've recorded to that track, right? So this is why I recommend naming your tracks before recording to them. That way, your audio files will at least be named according to whatever the track is. So, for example, if you name your track vocals before recording vocals, then all your vocal whole file clips will be named vocals with an underscore and then the take number. So once you have those whole file clips in your session, you might edit them, right? So Pro Tools will then keep the original file, but will also create the new edited clip. So this new edited clip, which is a subset clip, will have a different name than the whole file clip. This name will be generated by Pro Tools and will consist of the original name of the whole file clip with a hyphen added and then the edit number. So the edit number is just a sequential thing that's solely based on the number of times you've performed an edit function on that specific whole file clip. So if your whole file clip is called vocals_1 and you perform an edit that creates subset clips, one of those subset clips will be named vocals_01-01. Now, once you have a bunch of tracks and a lot of edits, you will probably want to rename a file or clip at some point. So to do this, you just double click on the file or clip in the edit window with the grabber tool. So I'll just show you that really quickly. I'm going to double click on this and I can change the name. It opens up the dialog right here. Another way to do it is to double click on the file or clip in the clip list, right? So I'll just show you that really quickly. So I'm going to double click and it opens up this name dialog again. And yet another way to do that is to right click on the file or clip in the edit window or in the clip list and choose rename from the options that appear in the pop-up menu. So I'll just show you that really quick. So I'm just right clicking here and then rename will be an option. So here it is right here. Another way to do it is to right click right here and select rename. Okay. So just so you know, you'll probably have trouble using the double click method with a MIDI clip because the default is for the MIDI editor window to open up when you double click on a MIDI clip. You can change the setting though by going to setup, choosing preferences, and then going to the MIDI tab. You can then select a different option for double clicking a MIDI clip opens, whatever. So I'll just show you that really quickly. Setup, preferences, and then I'm going to the MIDI tab. And then I'm going to It's right down here. We have double clicking a MIDI clip opens. And right now it's the MIDI editor, which is the default, right? But I could select name dialogue if you want to have it be a renaming thing. So if you select name dialogue, when you double click on a MIDI clip, it'll behave like an audio clip and it'll open up that name dialogue for you. I'm just going to hit cancel for now. So anyway, when you double click on your clip or use any of the methods I just mentioned to rename it, the name dialog box will appear. If the clip that you clicked on is a whole file clip, then you'll have the options of renaming just the clip with a name clip only option, or of renaming the clip in your session as well as renaming the associated audio file that's on disk, which is most likely in your audio files folder, right? So that option will be called the name clip and disk file option, right? So let's see if I can open that up. Let's see. I think this is a whole file clip. Oh, maybe not. Well, maybe instead of searching for a whole file clip, we'll just move on here. So if you rename a stereo file, both the left and the right side of the stereo file will be renamed according to the name that you selected. So you can also remove clips from your session or delete audio files. And it's important that you don't confuse these two actions because they're two separate things. So if you just remove a clip from the session, then you'll find that the parent audio file that exists on your hard drive still exists on your hard drive, right? And it can be referenced or used by other clips within any Pro Tools session. So if you delete your audio file from the hard drive, then the audio file is gone from your computer, right? So it's a permanent delete, and the clips that referenced that audio file are removed from your session. So once you get into a more in-depth session, you might want to remove audio clips from your session in order to clean your session up and simplify things. So it's great for staying organized, but remember that it won't clear up hard drive space since you're not deleting the audio files from the hard drive. Anyway, so to remove audio clips, which again is without deleting the audio file from the hard drive, you just click on the clip or clips that you want to remove from your session. And you can also hold Command and click or hold Control in Windows to select multiple clips individually, right? Just like we did with the tracks in an earlier episode. And then what you do, you can also hold Shift and click on the two clips to select a range of clips, right? So I'm just going to select a clip here, right? So I'm going to select this top one. So then what you're going to do is you're going to click on the clip list pop-up menu and select clear. So I'm just going to do that really quickly. So here's the clip list pop-up menu. If you guys remember, it's this arrow. And I'm going to select clear. So here's clear. And this dialog pops up, right? So the clear clips dialog box will appear and you'll want to select remove from that dialog in order to just remove the clip or clips from your session, but to leave the original audio files on the hard drive. So you might get another dialog box when you select clear because Pro Tools dictates that any clips used in the track playlist, in the clipboard, or in the undo queue needs to stay on the clip list. So this means that if you try to remove a clip that's on a track or on the clipboard or in the undo queue, then you'll get a warning that says the audio clip is used on a track, in a plugin, in the undo queue, or in the clipboard, and it'll ask you, do you still want to clear it, right? So if you get this dialog, just click yes to clear the clip anyway, which will clear it from the clip list. From any track it might be on, from the undo queue, or from the clipboard, depending on which of those things it's on. Or you can click no to cancel your clear command and keep the clip, sorry. Okay, so now let's move on to deleting audio files. So this can be useful to get rid of bad takes or warm-up takes that you're sure that you're never going to use. So you might also clear up clips from your clip list and then find that you want to delete the unused audio files that are still on your hard drive. So this will free up space on your hard drive for more recording, and it will make your session smaller, which is great if you want to move it to another computer or back it up, right? So to remove clips from your clip list while also deleting associated audio files from your hard drive, you'll need to start by repeating the first 2 steps for removing audio clips. So you just select the clip or clips that you want to remove and then select clear from the clip list pop-up menu. So I'm going to hit cancel here. I'm selecting my clip and then you select clear again, right? So right here I hit clear. It's the same thing. When the clear clips dialog box pops up though, select delete to get rid of the selected clips from the clip list and to permanently delete any associated audio clips from your hard drive. Just be careful if you use this option because it's a permanent delete. Also, just like when you remove a clip from just the clip list, Pro Tools will give you a warning message if you try to delete any clips used on a track in the clipboard or in the undo queue. So I'm just going to hit delete here to see how that goes for you guys. And so here's that dialog, right? So you just click yes to permanently delete the audio file from the session and from your hard drive. And you click no to cancel the clear completely and to keep the file in the hard drive. You might also try to delete a clip with an associated audio file that is referenced by another clip in your session. If this happens, Pro Tools will prevent you from doing that, and it'll actually give you a warning dialog box that says that the audio file cannot be deleted from disk. Clips from it remain in the session, and then it'll ask you, do you want to remove it from the session? If you get this dialog box, just click yes to remove the whole file clip from your clip list and leave the audio file on your hard drive, and click no to cancel the clear and leave the whole file clip on the hard drive. If you don't get that or any other dialog first, then Pro Tools will prompt you with the dialog box that asks you to confirm the delete. This dialog will say that the audio file will be deleted from disk, gone forever. Do you still want to delete it? Just click yes to permanently delete the audio file from your hard drive and from your session, and click no to cancel the clear and leave the file untouched on your hard drive and in your session. So you'll probably find when you're trying to remove or delete files that you're bombarded with a bunch of repetitive warnings asking you to confirm that you want to delete your files. You can actually bypass these warnings if you're clearing or deleting files by holding Option, or if you're on a Windows machine, you hold Alt, and then clicking on the yes or no button. Then you'll just get the one warning that you Option clicked on, and you won't get multiple warnings. Okay, so let's move into importing media into a session. Now, recording audio is a great way to get audio into your session, but if you're working as an engineer, you'll have to import and work with media that were created outside of your session at some point. Sometimes this will be in the form of loops or samples if you're working in music or sound effects or like a video even. So basically it could be any sort of audio or video file that was created by someone else. Either way, it's important to know how to import media. So Pro Tools makes it pretty easy to import into your session video or audio files that exist elsewhere on a hard drive or volume. So like most things in Pro Tools, there are a few different ways to import each type of media. So Pro Tools can directly read a lot of types of files and can convert many other types of audio formats upon import. So before you import any file, you need to know whether your session can read the file, and if not, how it needs to be converted before import. So which media files can just be imported directly into Pro Tools without any sort of conversion completely depends on how you originally configured your session. So this brings us back to sample rate, bit depth, and file format, which we discussed before, right? So of course, video files will have different factors to consider, like frame rate. They still have a sample rate and they have a file format. But let's talk about audio files first. So in order for an audio file to be imported into your session successfully, the sample rate of the audio file must match that of your session. So if you remember from earlier in this course, Pro Tools can handle 44.1 kilohertz. It can handle 48 kilohertz, 88.2 kilohertz, 96 kilohertz, 176.4 kilohertz, or it can handle 192 kilohertz sampling rate. So if you know the sample rate of your session, you will know what audio needs to go through a sample rate conversion in order to be imported. You can check the sample rate of your session by going to the Setup menu and then choosing Session to view the session setup dialog. I find this dialog really convenient. So I'm just going to show you that. So I'm going to Setup and I'm going to find Session here. I'm going to click on that and that opens it up for me, and I can see that I am in 44.1 kilohertz right now in my session. You can also open or close this window by holding Command and hitting the 2 button on your numeric keypad, right? So if you remember from earlier in the series, Pro Tools can support bit depths of 16-bit, 24-bit, or 32-bit floating point. If you're using Pro Tools 10 or later and you're importing an audio file that's in one of the supported bit depths, you don't need to convert the bit depth of the file. Earlier than Pro Tools version 10, though, the bit depth of the file had to match the bit depth of the session. And just like with sample rate, you can look at the bit depth of your session by going to the Setup menu and then choosing Session to view the session bit depth in the session setup dialog. So I already have that window open, but you can see right here it says bit depth. I'm in 32-bit floating point. So the other factor to consider with audio files is that of file format. As we discussed earlier in the series, Pro Tools natively supports AIFF, which stands for Audio Interchange File Format, and WAV, which is short for Waveform Audio file formats. Again, this is one of the parameters that you choose when you create your session. Just like with bit depth and sample rate, you can see which one you choose if you open up that Setup menu and choose Session to see the session setup dialog. Pro Tools can recognize compatible audio formats, and it can import compatible file formats as long as they have the same sample rate as your session. This means you can import a mixture of WAV or AIFF files into the same session and add them to the clip list without converting or translating the file type. Other file types, though, will have to be converted upon import. The good news is that Pro Tools can recognize a whole bunch of file format types, and it will convert them for you upon import, which makes the whole import process a lot easier. So let's talk about some of those other format types that Pro Tools can recognize, convert, and import. It's good to be familiar with these. So Windows Media Audio, which is abbreviated capital WMA, right, is a common Windows-only format. It supports multi-channel files for surround sound and is a high-quality format that scales down to small sizes well. You'll find Windows Media Audio files up to 96 kilohertz sampling rate and up to 24-bit bit depth. Another file type is MP3, which is short for MPEG 1 layer 3, right? MP3s get a bad rap for being a lower quality than a lot of other formats, and to be honest, they're not really ideal if you're trying to create a high quality session. It's a common file type though, and it's supported on all common computer systems. MP3s have a 10:1 compression ratio, so they tend to be a much smaller file size for the same amount of audio. So this makes them great for things like sharing through email or posting online. I often see MP3s being created at the end of the production process in order to supply a smaller file for things like posting or sharing online. But I don't see them imported at the beginning of the process very much. But anyway, MP3s need to be converted before import to a Pro Tools session. So next is Sound Designer 2 files, which are abbreviated capital S, capital D, and then the Roman numerals for 2, right? So 2 I's. So ST2 files can be in mono or stereo interleaved formats, and they're only supported on Mac computer systems. However, Pro Tools can import SD2 files in either Windows or Mac systems with a conversion. So you'll also see Sound Designer 2 files in either 44.1 or 48 kilohertz, because these are the only two sample rates that are supported for this file type. So we already discussed audio interchange file format, which is AIFF, right? But we discussed this because it's one of the 2 natively supported file formats in Pro Tools. It's primarily used on Mac computer systems, but it's supported for all Pro Tools systems, so both Windows and Mac-based systems. You don't need any conversions when recording or importing AIFF files into Pro Tools. And AIFF is pretty standard for a bunch of multimedia-based software for Mac. So, for example, it's used in Final Cut, and it's the standard for QuickTime. Similar to AIFF is Audio Interchange File Compressed, which is abbreviated AIFC. It's a variation on the AIFF format in that it lets you apply audio compression standard to your AIFF files. Avid systems usually have AIFC file compression turned off. Excuse me. So just with Avid systems, there is usually no significant difference between AIFF and AIFC formats. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little bit of water. So the other natively supported formats that we've mentioned before is waveform audio format, also called WAV. Now, WAV, it's abbreviated WAV, but it's also sometimes called WAVE, WAVE, right? But these files are kind of a format family. So Pro Tools can play back and read any standard WAV file, but it only records and exports a specific type of WAV file called broadcast wave, or BWF files, with BWF standing for broadcast wave format. So BWF files use the .wav extension just like any other WAV file. They just store timestamps in a specific manner that makes them great for time interchange operations. So this is why both Mac and Windows-based Pro Tools systems use BWF by default. So BWF WAV files can be imported and recorded directly into Pro Tools, both on Windows and Mac-based systems, without any file format conversion, which makes them really easy to work with. If you're in a Pro Tools 10 system or later, you can also use the RF64 file formats and WAV extensible audio file formats. So WAV extensible has added capabilities to specify surround sound, or rather multi-channel data. And RF64 was created to address the 4 gigabyte size limit for other WAV file formats. Okay, so let's discuss some video file formats. So in Pro Tools 11, the supported formats for video to import are QuickTime format, a range of Avid MXF video formats, which includes Avid DNX HD. And to import and playback video files in Pro Tools 11, though, you need to make sure you installed the video engine and that it's enabled. Okay. So those are the file formats that we need to discuss, but there are also different stereo file configurations that we should talk about. There are 2 main configurations for stereo files that are common on Windows and Mac systems. There's no audible difference between the 2, and the difference is mostly in how the audio is stored within the files. So both configurations can easily be imported into Pro Tools 10 or later without needing to be converted, but Pro Tools will use one of the 2 depending on how you have your session parameters configured. So the 2 configurations are split stereo and interleaved stereo. So split stereo actually splits the stereo info between 2 distinct mono files. So there is a separate mono file for the left and a separate mono file for the right. All Avid Pro Tools systems support split stereo. Interleaved stereo, on the other hand, combines or interleaves the stereo data into one single file. So this means that both the data for the left and for the right channels are contained within this one file. So if you're in Pro Tools 10 or later, interleaved audio files are supported. If you're on an earlier version of Pro Tools, you'll need to convert any interleaved audio files, whether they're stereo or larger multi-channel files, into split stereo or multiple mono files before importing them into your Pro Tools system. In Pro Tools 10 or later, you can enable an interleaved option, which makes it so that anything that's recorded on a stereo or in another multi-channel format will be recorded as interleaved audio. Okay, so let's get into importing audio files. There are a bunch of options when importing audio, but you can import audio files from any hard drive or volume. And Pro Tools will place the audio on your clip list as we discussed. So let's start out by talking about the import audio dialog box. You can either import audio straight to the clip list, or you can import audio using the import audio dialog box. It's a useful dialog box since it lets you convert, copy, and or add audio files into your session. Okay, so we will go into the different ways to open this dialog box in a minute, but for now, I'm going to open it using the File menu and selecting the Import command, and then selecting Audio from the options there. So I'm just going to open that up really quickly, close out of what I'm in here. File, Import, Audio, right there. Okay, and that opens up that dialog box for you. So you can also open this dialog box by holding Command and Shift and hitting the I button on your keyboard. But anyway, the top section of this dialog box is called the navigation bar. This is used for file navigation, and it should look like the standard for navigating your OS. So I'll just point that out on mine here. So it's right up here, the top navigation bar, right here, this region. Okay. So the navigation display below that helps you locate and choose your audio files. You also have a section of this dialog window that's called File Properties, which is below the navigation window area. This is the section where you will learn the file type, bit depth, length, sample rate, size, and number of channels. So I'll just show you that right here. So it's this section right here. So I'm just going to select a piece of audio that's on my computer, and you can see it populate with the different details of the audio file in that section. So to see these properties, all you have to do is select that audio file within the navigation display area. When you select a file for import, you'll also notice the comments section populate. This is where you will see notes about whether and how the selected file can be imported into your session. So I'll just show you that right here. When I clicked on the file, you can see that this is my comments section right here, and it populated with a comment about the audio file. Okay. So it's to the right of the File Properties section on a Mac, but at the very bottom of the window on a Windows-based system. So there should also be sections for the clips and the clips to import. The clips section will display the whole file clip for the selected audio, and it will also display any subset clips that might be attached to that file. You'll see icons in this section to the left of the clip name. So I'll just show you that really quickly. So right now I have this file selected, and you can see down here in that clips section, there's an icon right here. So this is one of the icons that you can get. I hope you guys can see that. It's not too small. But the icon that looks like a page with two parallel sound waves on it means that this is a parent audio file. So that's what this icon is that we have right here. So that clip is actually a parent audio file. The icon that looks like a reverse highlighted parallel sound waves means that the selected clip is an audio subset clip. And I actually have an image of that on my desktop for you guys. So I'll just open that up really quickly. So here we go. That's the icon. It's normally a lot smaller than that. But anyway, so that's the icon for that. I'm just going to open up. Oh, to get back into Pro Tools, I'm just going to open up my import window again for you guys. Okay. And highlight that clip. So we're back where we were. Okay. So there are also clip select buttons. So there's an add button, an add all button, a copy button, and a copy all button on a Mac system, whereas Windows actually has an add clip and copy clip buttons. But either way, these buttons allow you to choose audio to add, convert, or copy into your Pro Tools session. If you press one of these buttons, it will move the selected clip or file from the clip section and into the clips to import section. So I'll just show you that really quick with this clip. So I'm going to hit my convert. Well, I'll hit the add for now. But I would normally hit convert there. So anyway, you also have audition controls in this dialog box. So these allow you to audition or preview your files and clips. There are buttons and sliders here that allow you to play, stop, rewind, and fast forward the playback of whatever you have selected. So I can just show you that really quickly with this clip. So this is that section. And I'm just going to hit play here. And the clip will play. And then I can hit pause to pause it. And then right here is where you can fast forward and rewind. So I'm just going to hit play and move about in the clip really quickly so you can see that. Okay. So that's a good way to audition what you're looking at. So finally, in this import audio dialog box, we have the clip import section. This section is the upper right white box within a Windows machine, and it's the section that's labeled clips to import on a Mac. So I'll just show you that section really quickly. It's right here. It's where we copied our audio over to, right? Or rather added. So this is where audio files and clips are displayed that you've already selected to import into your session. It also tells you the import method that's selected. So as you can see here, I have add as my import method. So there are remove buttons below this section that you can use to remove any clips or files from this section if you've changed your mind about importing them. So for example, right here, I look at this and I have it, it's just adding, it's not converting. And if I look in my comments section, because of the sample rate difference, because my session is at 44.1 and this audio file is at 48. So because of the sample rate difference, it says that it will play back at the wrong speed. So I'm just going to hit remove to remove this. And it takes it off that clips to import list. And then what I can do is I can hit convert. And now it says that it will be converted once it brings into my session. And that's how I actually want it. Okay. So that's the import audio dialog box. And as we said before, you don't have to use it. And there are many different ways to import audio. So you can import straight to a track or just into the clip list, and you can import through this dialog or through the Workspace browser, or you can drag some files straight into Pro Tools. But for now, that's all we have for today. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and found some useful information in here. Next time on Pro Tools Authority, we will continue with the different ways to import audio and video. We will probably then go into some more information on working with MIDI and controlling different timing-based controls that pertain to MIDI. We might even get into virtual instruments. So thanks for watching Pro Tools Authority, and I hope to see you guys next time.